Welcome, Juho, to Metaladium Pages. It's a great pleasure to talk with you about Oranssi Pazuzu, this new album, Mutautuha, and more things related to metal world in general. So we started by asking, how are you doing today? How is the band during the last couple of years? No, sorry, the 4 years, because your last album, Metasti 15, was released in 2020.
Yeah, thanks for asking. Yeah, everything going well. Just like preparing to release the album, or I think in 10 days or something like that. Yeah, and we kind of have been working on the album. We pretty much started right after the latest album, that came out 2020. But then we had like years pause in working for it because we did a lot of shows when you actually could do shows again, like after COVID kind of went away. In 2022, we only did shows in that, but I think that really kind of boosted the direction of the new album, Muuntautuja, to kind of like different directions than we originally thought, because the live thing was kind of, we had a lot of jams there that were quite noisy and were kind of quite intense. So I think it brought a lot of intensity and the noisiness to the actual album. Like after that, then the 2 years after that, we kind of only worked to get the album done.
Okay. So, how? Sorry for this. So, when do you decide to start write songs for this album in general? It was when you released, we just finishing, when you finishing completely promoting for the new album, or perhaps some of the songs are are take out from the previous albums.
Yeah, like I mentioned, we kind of started working immediately, like 2020, because there was no shows to do. So we just continued from there. But then I think the kind of latest 2 years were when the things really got kind of pushed forwards. And actually, now that you mentioned and asked about the kind of was some of the songs from the previous stuff, well, not exactly, but we never start with that stuff. When we start making new album, we always want to try out new things and kind of see what the direction of the album will be. But yeah, when we kind of have it going and we got the direction for the album, we might go through some of the older stuff and the stuff that kind of went only to demos or something like that, or even perhaps it's just a recording from the rehearsal place. And we kind of see if we can kind of take that song that was not finished, take it to new levels with this new kind of direction. So they're actually the first track of the new album is one of those tracks that we kind of have been playing a bit, some like maybe 7 years ago, but it only now it kind of felt right to kind of finish that song. So yeah, we sometimes that happens.
Oh, okay. Interesting to know. So now, and how do you feel about this new release compared to the previous one, which came out during the difficult time during the pandemic?
Yeah, well, our music is always like a kind of a experimenting journey from one point to another. And I think always when we have an album, that kind of creates a point. And then when the next one comes, that creates a new point. And the third album, that couldn't happen like without the other two. So it's always like a continuing exploration for us. But I think like on this new album, we kind of went full on with the noise and kind of wanted to have the noise as this kind of abstract, almost statue-like things that kind of shift into your focus and disappear into sand and then come back together. So we kind of really wanted to treat this album as a sculpture even more, and to kind of go full on with that and also explore more abstract and even darker sides in our music, where you kind of to see how far you can take the idea of having the listener's mind to fill in some of the blanks there, and to kind of for the listener to use their own imagination the same way that we are using. So in some way, I think we kind of almost wanted to have the listener to kind of take the album to kind of take it to the full kind of potential. And it of course differs for different listeners. It's a different experience, and I think that's been for us as well. It's always when we kind of work on it on a different day, you have a different take on it, and we like these layers, kind of this that there's a different kind of interpretation of the album depending on your surrounding and your field. And I think that's interesting about music, and I think we really want to explore that side in the music and in art in general.
Oh yeah. So Oliver Taylor's also all bands in the world when they release a new album said that this album is the last or the best efforts to date. So if that is true in your case, what make this special, this album for you, or the best work to date?
Yeah, I think it's quite natural that it feels like this for bands, because that's what you kind of work the last. For us, it definitely is the most interesting album we have come in our journey. But like I said, this album wouldn't have happened without any of the other albums. So it's a kind of circle in that sense. So, but yes, I'm most happy with this stuff. I think it's the most kind of interesting stuff we've done. And I'm pretty sure I will always feel that way, because when I think when that happens, that you don't feel that your new stuff is the most exciting, it's better to quit your band at that point. I think that's my opinion.
Okay. So now, how do you, in this case, always for me is a great thing to know or to investigate also. So how do you choose the name of the album? Because first there is the name in Finland language. No, it's English, no, it's another language to understand for many people. So how do you choose the name of your album in Finnish? And why do you decide to sing all the albums from Oranssi Pazuzu in Finland?
Well, yeah, the new album is kind of translated to shapeshifter, muuntautuja. That's the kind of meaning. And in this case, it came in like pretty early when we were kind of finishing the songs. Like, I don't mean like it came 4 years ago, but maybe like a year and a half, 2 years ago. I think 2 years ago we already had the title. It kind of, the shape-shifting describes our band. We are a bit of a shape-shifters, or at least that's our idea of, we always want to change something for the next album. And I think it also describes the new album in a way that there are these abstract things that come into your kind of focus, and then they shift, they disappear, to have that kind of psychedelic feel in the stuff. So I think that kind of fits the album as well. And then there's our lyrical themes as well that kind of go through the shifting from being alive to death, the kind of transitions, what happens in that, or like ideas, or becoming one with something else also. So that's like shifting. And why we choose Finnish, I think it's just because I think it's very important in our music to have the certain atmosphere. And if we would do it in English, we wouldn't understand the language so profoundly. And I think it would affect the way we are interpreting the music, how we are kind of presenting it. And I think it's really important that it feels natural for us. I mean, yeah, we know English some, but I think we don't know it enough to have these layers in the lyrics to kind of make it impactful for us. So I think it's important for the band to kind of represent themselves in their own language in order to make the atmosphere powerful.
Okay, interesting. So now talking about now the is special for the lyrics team, as you know, that's completely normal when you play live. Some people sing in the English song, the Spanish song, but how do you affront or how do you see the fans' reaction to the Finnish lyrics? Because it's not a very well common to sing one person in Japan or in I don't know, in Mexico, try to sing your songs when your songs is singing in Finnish. So how do you deal with this topic that at the time when you play songs live, How do you deal with this topic that the fans can sing your song?
Well, I don't think we do a lot of that, like joint singing thing. Like I don't know if someone does that in our audience outside Finland. I don't think they do it even in Finland. So I don't think we're that kind of band. So I think it's like more that they can sense the atmosphere, and that feels like it's powerful. And hopefully that's gonna be like enough. And there are some cases like where we didn't make, I guess it was Värähtelijä album, we didn't make any translations of the lyrics in anywhere, but still a lot of people said that like it feels like it's a psychological mirror where you kind of see things that are in your head and you kind of try to show light into those dark corners. So I think that was really interesting that some of the themes kind of came through even without the lyrics. And I think it's also because when we work on our songs, the lyrics are always coming last. Everything is there already. I mean, I have already done some vocalizing with just mumbo jumbo or just noises, and lyrics are the last thing that comes, and they only kind of fulfill the picture a bit more. So I believe everything kind of should be there also without the lyrics, and then they just take the last kind of thing. So I guess if it's a simple enough word, maybe some people sing along, but I've never concentrated to see if that actually is happening somewhere. Would be interesting though.
Okay. So now, as you can see, when your sound is very diverse in this new album, especially because I'm keeping hearing your music since your first album to now, always your sound brings a lot of style, textures, layers, this kind of stuff, and it's very difficult, especially for me, is to select this song is much better to the other song. But in your case, you need to select a song by the label for the fans, pick a song so to first present the album, then present more sounds of the band. So how do you select the singles for the album? One thing, and the second one. So how do you select the order of the songs of the albums? Because now as the singles are very important, it's very important to choose the order of the track list of the album.
Yeah, I think we always think of the album like in the old school way, and in also the kind of progressive 60s, 70s way of the album journey, like old Genesis albums or something like this, that it's a journey. And you're supposed to kind of have different parts in the journey that go together, but at the same time create like different drama curves. So that's always, the album is always important for us. But then when we choose singles, I think we usually just try to give an, like, let's say a couple of songs that kind of have some interesting drama point of the album, that also that they are quite different and present a different drama curve of the entire album, and go with that. We don't think about like necessarily catchiness or pop stuff like that, but sometimes, yeah, I think we can also think about like, yeah, this has certain things that are kind of easy to take in at the first listen, and then you use that. But that's, I think, rarely the case when we choose. We try to kind of emphasize the journey even with the single songs, and choose them. And yeah, we can ask from labels, of course, like how do you feel like what should be the singles? Like that's fine for us. At that point, we stand behind the album anyway. So it for us, maybe it's not that important which are the singles anyways, because the album journey is the most important.
Okay. So talking about now the promotion of this new album. So what kind of plans do you have for this new album? Perhaps you present a little gigs there, tours there, who know, or perhaps you will embark a full tour someday for this new album.
Yeah, we go on European tour with Soulstafier on I think it's November. Yeah, November, and we do a month tour, and then next year some more shows in Finland and in Europe as well. We really hope to come to that side of the ocean too, but no concrete plans on that yet. But that would be something that we really hope for.
Okay, okay. So now I remember I asked you on 2020 about your previous album because we spoke about interview at that time. So
Yeah,
for
I
you,
remember.
what represents to you this album, or what represents for you the black metal side on this new album?
I think in the end, for me, it's always the kind of uh, the darker stuff that goes inside your mind, your own kind of psyche, and how you kind of follow that journey and kind of have your own path from that journey. And I think this is like an as a like a from the black metal side, this is our most kind of journey that goes the furthest in our spectrum, and also with the darkness of the album. I mean, we always try to have also from the darkness that when you go like when you go further enough in the darkness, there is also power there, and there is also like this kind of catharsis there that you kind of accept some things that are inevitable and that your mind already kind of is processing, and you as a human, like
Mhm.
what are your limitations and what happens when you die and all that. When you kind of go there and accept the thing, you will kind of have a catharsis through that and power. So I would say like we go the furthest in that aspect from the black metal, and in the music, well, it's quite dissonant album, and I think we take that also the furthest we have in that sense.
Okay, okay. Now talking about one thing that you said about the dissonant topic, because as you can see, since 2 or 3 years ago, we are like in like a third wave of this dissonant sound. But you still preaching these dissonant sounds your 2009, your first album. So how do you see this groupment of the dissonant sound, dissonant rhymes, and do you think that we can call dissonant black metal dissonant death metal, or is just a technique of the music? Because for me always, since I hear the first bands from dissonant, if we relate it with the doom topic in the 60s, they use dissonant, but they never call someone, hey, this is dissonant doom metal in the 60s. Nobody called that. So
No.
nobody called that. So for you, do you think that we can still put a label for the dissonant sound, like dissonant black metal, dissonant death metal, dissonant heavy metal? I don't know.
Yeah, I think like all of these kind of genre tags that go very specific, they are a bit like, first of all, I'm fine with someone calling our music, for example, dissonant whatever, dissonant black metal, dissonant rock, dissonant metal. It's fine, but for us, it doesn't really matter because we use the dissonance. Uh, for me at least, it's for tension. I think that kind of dissonantic kind of harmonies, they keep you on your toes, on your edge. So there's no release. Like you always have this like tension that is like almost restraining you, and then you only have small kind of moments where you let go of that tenseness, and then you kind of squeeze it back in. So I think it's more of a like technique to kind of have a certain feel for the music, and that feel that I like very much is the kind of tenseness and the tenseness of the music and how it kind of keeps you on your toes with that stuff, because there is no release, or at least the releases are so small that you kind of start to think of them in a new way completely when you listen to it.
Mhm. Okay, okay, I understand completely. Another thing, as you can see now, the world are, well, as you can see now, it's not like the 80s or 90s or 80s or 70s. When you hear one band and you said that band plays heavy metal, that band plays thrash metal, or perhaps the fans or media doesn't know what or didn't know what band plays, that, just metal in general. So that's why when you hear for the first time Opeth, the people relate gutturals and with keyboards, yeah, they play progressive death metal. That's more accepted for that. But now, as you can see, there's a lot of labels. technical, experimental, avant-garde, I don't know, and the list going on. So for you, how do you see this issue of labels, especially in the sound of Oranssi Pazuzu? So how do you describe your sound yourselves? We still keeping considering that you are a black metal band?
I think we've never been only a black metal anything. It's like we're always been a fusion band. And like I said, I'm not that like worried about like what we ourselves like we don't describe our music, at least in genres, to ourselves in the band. I think we're more just interested in the kind of mentality of that 16th, 70s exploration in music. Like, for example, they used all of the newest gear always, and even some gear that didn't exist, they invented. And there was these synths coming in, and it was an exploration, and I think it was a musical revelation even. It was more than music, to kind of see where our minds go and how far we can take things and music and kind of create new. So I think it's more of that mentality that we kind of want to keep ourselves tapped in. And then all of this other stuff comes naturally because we've been playing together for quite some time, and we don't have to kind of discuss between ourselves that what kind of riff this is or what kind of song idea this is. We kind of have it there already. We just want to explore it and find new sides in the creation of that. So I think that's what's really important for us in that aspect.
Okay. Other thing that I remember that you mentioned me in 2020 is now the aspect of the black metal now. Now, and well, 4 years late, 4 years past for that interview, and I remember that for you the black metal now is like a little boring because you can see now is hoods, mask, or people trying to cover the face with their hands. So for me, them is also not also interesting because all these kind of bands sound like Dissection or some bands like the 90s, and then they trying to preach the same sound now, so that's completely normal. So but for you, what's your point of view when a band plays black metal? Do you think that that a new band in black metal need to, so no, I don't know, need to maintain the philosophic, need to maintain the psychological aspect that the black metal has during the 90s to now, because now everyone plays black metal with the hoods and max, and one of that bands I remember that at the end of the last year it sold balls of Christmas. That a curious thing, a black metal sold selling balls of Christmas. That's amazing or amusing for me.
Yeah, well, I think it has happened what happens to everything, like when things get far enough and kind of things continue for decades, that things get institutionalized, and there's kind of people kind of start doing what has already been done and kind of work in that area. But that's not how black metal became to be. It was from experimentation of certain things. And I think like it's just also the philosophical aspect of that kind of searching and finding your own path. I think that has gone to minimum now, like with that. But I think that's also at the same time very natural for any music. And I have to say, I haven't kept my tabs on all of the newest black metal bands or anything like that. But I think like it's very natural for anything that kind of becomes, let's say, famous or big, that it kind of, there's this staleness coming into the whole thing. But then I think when enough time passes, there are always new streams going forwards from that, and usually those things kind of get born in a place where you're not trying to copy a certain scene, let's say, that already has happened, because even that scene probably didn't get born like said, yeah, we're going to start playing this now. Like it's a like constant development and like searching for new ideas, going to adventurous areas on that. So I think like I don't think there's exactly like so much wrong with black metal. It's just what it is. It's already like a couple of decades from it when it happened, and it just there's this staleness like going on. But let's see where it goes like from this.
Okay. Other detail about this topic, talking about the black metal, is remember when I remember when I spoke with a lot of musicians into the black metal, and saying that these musicians from Greece, from other countries, many of these musicians of this style in many countries, we related that black metal today has become one of the mainstreams in terms of the tales of course pain, Satanism. As you can see, there's more jokes about how to play black metal in YouTube than how to play death metal in the YouTube. That is a curious thing because I don't know why the black metal. And many of these musicians from other bands blame the Norwegian black metal bands for making this style very mainstream and in some ways losing the initial essence of the black metal. So do you think thanks to the Norwegian black metal scene, this style today lost the aspects of fear, curiosity, and terror and mystery that it caused in the 90s? Because now there's a few commercials on YouTube with black metal, or you can see how to do a corpse paint or make jokes about this style.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. Like, I haven't really been following up that kind of side of the things. But you know, like the second kind of wave of black metal was happening in Norway. So that we wouldn't even have this discussion without that happening there. Like in this sense, because all the bands came from there. So I don't think you can really kind of blame a certain area for anything or certain scene for. I think it just, like I said previously, every scene has that same aspect happening, that then there starts to be like the scene is formed from several different bands, for example, and directions, and then there starts to be this idea what the scene is and almost some rules about the scene, which also I think like that kind of goes against for some of the philosophy of the black metal, even like when you kind of see that you should kind of follow your own path again with that stuff, and then like it just gets kind of something that it was never supposed to be, or it was never supposed to be anything. So I don't know what other options there would be or where it should have gone. It's just what it is, that thing.
Okay. So we are very close to this interview, Juho, and one of the last questions for this is, so as you can see, well, for me, it's normal that you can use in your music keyboards, synthesizers, and more things because it's part of your sound since your first album. But now we have but now we have a great tool to proceed with these kind of things, that is the artificial intelligence now, especially for the arts. As you can see, there are cover arts, the cover arts created by the artificial intelligence, and I understand the musicians who use this artificial intelligence because it's cheaper than the contract artist, because, or perhaps they don't have money to contract artists. One thing, and the other thing that a lot of musicians now playing with artificial intelligence because this tool or this tool wants to, or this tool helped you to create music with it. So for you, and if we relate the music from Oranssi Pazuzu, and you can see that you can use synthesizer, perhaps you create your own project with this artificial intelligence in music. Who knows? Perhaps in the future, how do you see this topic to use artificial intelligence in the past? Perhaps for the music for Oranssi Pazuzu, create an album, or perhaps you create a personal project with this tool.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, and there's always been these talks when new technology come in that's gonna destroy fucking everything. I don't think so. I think it's really bad for people who work in music field in different areas than art. Like, for example, someone creating commercials or something like that. Yeah, it's definitely gonna destroy that line of work in music. But then art, I don't think the artificial intelligence is yet quite there. I think it can make the textures and the kind of sounds. Yeah, it sounds like legit whatever. I've tried to listen to some of that stuff, and I usually, if there's a link to any of that, I'm really interested. But I don't think in music, it has created much like originality, or even, you know, something doesn't feel quite right in those songs, even if it's like simple pop music, like it doesn't feel like it's something you want to put on the next day as well. It's something you listen for the curiosity right now, and it's something that sounds, that everything is kind of sounds legit in this, but then do you want to put it again tomorrow? I think that's kind of what settles it. Who knows, maybe the AI will go there one day, but right now I'm more interested in using it, or trying to find ways to use it like as interesting part of your own art. I don't know, perhaps like making certain themes and noise soundscapes, feeding that to the AI and telling it to make their own version of it. And then when it pushes it back, you put it into one part of the song as one aspect, and then kind of do something wild with it. For now, I think it's tool the same way as any other tool in art. Yeah. And I'm not too scared of it, but at the same time, also I feel that if the AI can create something that you really want to listen to, I think the artists should then top up their game and make more interesting stuff and kind of more unique stuff. I think AI can create wallpaper in a sense that it sounds fine, yeah, but it's wallpaper. And if that is enough for people, then maybe that's all people deserve, like that wallpaper. So I think there's like there's certain aspects to this AI thing that are kind of very interesting in this sort of kind of more talk about the future of the music and all that. But what it is right now, I don't think it's in the right level to this, like to have like thinking that AI really does art in that sense. So that's my kind of thoughts about it now. But I'm interested in the kind of technology it does.
Okay, yeah, that is true. That is true. For me, it is the same, because for me, it is, for me, it's wrong to say that this is artificial intelligence, because this intelligence is not thinking. It's just doing what you want about the music or the cover art. It's not thinking yet. So for me,
stealing stuff from the
yes, yeah.
That's what it does.
Yeah, it's not artificial. It's not an intelligence. It's just a tool to create just music or to create art. So, well, Juha, we come to the sad moment of this interview. I hope you enjoyed this interview as I did, and thank you very much for your time. This new album is a great one, as tremendous as usually, as I said in the first interview, and now I'm keeping following the band since the beginning. Now I have all CDs in. I have all albums in CD. It's a great band for me. Thanks for this. Perhaps do you want to add something to your Latin American fans? And obviously, Metallic followers. I expect someday to see you live, because I really love your band.
Yeah, it would be really cool to come there, your side of the world. And there's been like slowly some talks about things that kind of go towards the direction, but I'm really hoping it's going to happen hopefully soon. And all of this kind of new, how the world is now, it's harder to sometimes do these things, but I'm really hoping that we're going to make it happen and come there to do some shows. That would be one of my dreams, actually. So hopefully that's going to happen. And thanks for the interview also to you.